Hi, hello, my name is Sydney. Welcome to or welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be talking about my all-time favorite books. These are all books that I have given 5 stars, and I'm going to tell you guys why I recommend them and why I think you should read them and why I gave them a 5 stars. So if you are looking for some potential 5-star reads and some book recommendations, definitely stay tuned and let's just get right into this video. First up, we have The Deal by Elle Kennedy, and this is the first book in the Off-Campus series. I am sure a lot of you guys have heard a lot about this book recently because the Off-Campus series recently came out as a TV show on Amazon Prime, and I absolutely loved this book. It took me a long time to actually pick it up. I absolutely loved this story. We are following our female main character Hannah and our male main character Garrett. Both of our main characters are in college. Hannah is a music student and Garrett is a hockey player, and they end up making a deal together to fake date. And throughout the whole story we get a lot of humor, we get a lot of good chemistry, and I just feel like the writing and everything that went on through the story, from developing from fake dating to an actual relationship, was just so good. I think the funny moments in the book just really made me love it even more. And yes, some people are definitely going to say that this book is a little bit cringy because it was written in like 2013, 2014, I think. So obviously it's going to be a little bit cringy reading it now. But I will say the cringe did not even bother me at all. It made me love this book even more. So if you guys haven't read this book yet, I highly recommend. And if you are new to sports romances, I definitely think this is a good one to pick up because this was one of my first sports romances that I've read, and I absolutely loved it. This next book I think is going to be a little bit controversial because some people don't like the trope that happens in this book, but it is The Night We Met by Abby Jimenez. This is her newest release that came out this year, and I know a lot of people don't like it because it is boyfriend's best friend, but honestly, I don't know, it didn't bother me too much. Of course, that's not something that I support. It is a book, so obviously it is not a real story. But I will say I didn't really love the boyfriend in this story, so that kind of made me like root for the female main character and the boyfriend's best friend, which again, do I support? No, but it's not a real story, so I think it is okay and I can get over it because I did really enjoy this book. It is a little bit of a second chance. I feel like this book was definitely a little bit of an emotional roller coaster, and the topic of grief is covered, but I feel like everything that happened and the unexpected kind of like friendship that happened here was just so good, and I did really like it. And I found myself thinking about this couple several times after finishing this book. So I feel like that also contributes to me giving something a 5 stars if I feel myself going back and thinking about the story and thinking about the couple. So I definitely recommend you guys picking up this book if you have been hesitant based on any of the reviews that you have seen. This next book, I feel like I have been talking a lot about it recently, but that is Promise Me Sunshine by Cara Stone. This was the first book I gave 5 stars this year, and I absolutely love Cara Stone's writing. I love how beautiful it is, and I love how she's able to take a very hard topic, specifically grief in this story, and also add aspects that make the story feel a little bit more lighthearted, because those heavy topics do really weigh on me when I am reading a story, especially when I can relate to it. And I feel like the banter and the humor that she was able to throw into the story just really combated that grief and was able to just really make this story so much more than just a romance. I loved the relationship we got to see between our 2 main characters and how they went from strangers to friends to lovers. It was just so good. It was so emotional. I definitely cried at several points throughout this book. I knew immediately that this book was giving me 5-star feels, and I just felt so connected to the whole story. I absolutely loved it. So if you have not picked up this book yet, I feel like this is also a really good time of year to read it. Definitely go in knowing that there is a lot of grief covered throughout this whole story. So look up trigger warnings if you think that is something you might need to do. But I just freaking cannot express to you guys how much I absolutely loved this book, and I feel like this is a romance book that everyone needs to pick up because I just think it is that good. Another book by Abby Jimenez we have is Say You'll Remember Me, and I also feel like this one is a little bit controversial. I've seen a lot of people really like it, but I've also seen some other people not love it as much as some of her other books. Me personally, I really enjoyed it, and obviously I gave it a 5 stars for a reason. We get to see the challenges that this couple overcomes. They go from strangers to lovers. I feel like our male main character would really do anything for our female main character, Samantha, because you can see how much he cares for her. There's a little bit of a heavier topic that is also covered in this story, so it is a little bit more emotional. But I feel like the way that our male main character Xavier was able to help Samantha throughout this hard time, kind of like break her hard shell, was just so amazing to see. And I also feel like it is kind of like grumpy sunshine. So if that is something that you like, I definitely think this is giving that as well. I also think there is some good humor in this book, which I am now starting to realize is a common theme in a lot of my 5-star reads. I really love when there is kind of more an emotional topic or a heavy emotional connection going on, but there is also some humor aspects to the book just because I feel like it just balances each other out and just makes a perfect romance. So if you have not read this from Abby Jimenez yet, I definitely think this time of year is also a very good time to pick this book up as well. Next up, we have Powerless by Lauren Roberts. This is the first book in a trilogy. And overall, I would say this trilogy is 5 stars for me. I will say the second book was definitely not my favorite, but the last book just really redeemed itself. This is a fantasy. We are following our 2 main characters, Peyton and Kai, and it is definitely a tension-filled book, but it is also super interesting, very fast-paced, and I think it would be a good introduction to fantasy. If you're looking to dip your toes in the water of the fantasy world, I think this would be pretty good because it is easy to follow along. There is a romance in it, so it is not just strictly fantasy and heavy world building. And I just think it is so freaking good. I love both of our main characters so much. Our female main character is thrown into like a trial where they have to compete pretty much to the death. And I just loved it. I don't know, it's giving kind of like Hunger Games vibes. So if you like that, I think this is also a book that you would enjoy. I loved the banter between Peyton and Kai. I loved the slow burn romance, and I just overall loved this series, and I wish we could get more from Peyton and Kai. I could just kind of like live with them forever, I feel like. And I don't know, it was just really good. So I'm sure a lot of you guys have probably already read this, but if you haven't, I definitely recommend picking it up. Another book by Abby Jimenez, it's actually like a short story slash novella. I read it on my Kindle. I believe it's still on Kindle Unlimited, but that is The Fall Risk. And guys, this was so good. This is definitely something you could read in one sitting. And I need everybody to go pick this up. I feel like this is a book that literally nobody knows that Abby Jimenez has. Obviously, it's a short story, and I have not seen it physically published anywhere. I don't even know if you can get a physical copy of it. But holy crap, I just stumbled across this one day and I knew I loved Abby Jimenez and I wanted something short. And right when I finished this book, I immediately went on to my Goodreads and gave it 5 stars because it was so good. And I wish we could get more from these characters. We are following 2 neighbors that randomly like get trapped in their little apartment complex with each other. And we just get to see the progression of their relationship, and they literally didn't even know anything about each other. But guys, I fell in love with these 2 characters, with this romance. It's a cozy read, but there's also some funny moments in it. And honestly, even though it is a shorter story, I feel like it is a little bit emotional as well. So definitely if you guys are looking for a shorter read that, again, you could read in literally one sitting, I would 1000% recommend you guys pick this book up because I love Abby Jimenez and I feel like this is a book that I think a lot of people didn't even know existed. The next book we have is Binding 13 by Chloe Walsh. This is the first book in the Boys of Tommen series, and guys, this whole series is 5 stars, infinity stars. I did not know how much I was going to fall in love with every single one of these characters, but holy crap, I feel like these are real people out there living their lives. I feel like there was so much emotional depth in each one of these characters, and I think Chloe Walsh just did an amazing and beautiful job with every single book in this series. If you have not read the Boys of Tommen books yet, specifically, obviously, I would say to definitely start off with the first book and go in order. I need you guys to read them. This is a sports romance, very lightly focused on the sports aspect of this, but there is some extremely heavy and graphic stuff covered throughout this series. So definitely look up trigger warnings before picking up any of the books in this series. But I think about these characters all the time. I absolutely love Johnny and Shannon, and I feel like their couple was so unexpected, and they're like two completely different types of people that came from two different worlds. And the way that Johnny cares so much for Shannon, and not only even just Shannon, but her family, it is just so amazing. Again, I loved this. Like, this is an Infinity Star series for me, and I just need everybody to read this if you haven't already. Next up, we have A Curse for True Love by Stephanie Garber. This is actually the third book in the Once Upon a Broken Heart trilogy. Overall, this trilogy is a 5-star read for me. This gives so much whimsy, fantasy, magical vibes. I loved being in this world. We're following our main character Evangeline and her romance with one of the characters we see from the Caraval trilogy. I feel like this is definitely more focused on the romance aspect and kind of the magical vibes and the magical setting. It is definitely nothing like a high fantasy, so no crazy world building or anything like that. It is just a fun time. I definitely would say that I went into the series more so as a vibe, and this is more of like a vibe 5-star rating for me, if that makes any sense, more than a like I loved the story, I loved the writing. While obviously I still did love that, a lot of the books that give me 5-star feelings, I have different feelings towards each one, and this one is definitely just an overall fun atmosphere, and I feel like it is definitely a 5-star like atmospheric read, if that makes sense. So if you were looking for a fun series to jump into where the world is whimsy and there's a lot of magic and the characters are just overall fun, I would highly recommend you pick up the Once Upon a Broken Heart series. The next 3 books I'm going to talk about are all books by Ashley Poston, one of my all-time favorite authors. The first book we have, which I feel like might be a little controversial, is a novel love story. I absolutely love Ashley Poston because of the way she does magical realism in her romance books. It is so good, and I feel like I haven't seen any other author, at least any author that I have read, include magical realism like this. It is so freaking good. I absolutely love every single book that she has written. Our female main character goes on a road trip and she finds herself in a fictional town that she has read about in one of her favorite book series. As someone who loves reading, I loved the concept and the idea of this story, so I was so excited to dive into it, and I can definitely confirm that this was such a good book. I feel like this is a book lover's dream book because you are kind of like being trapped into this small town that our female main character loves, which I feel like, hello, there's definitely several fictional towns that I would love to be trapped in for a day, but it's just so fun. Again, I think this concept is literally like nothing I've ever seen before, with the magical realism and everything that we get. Guys, it is so freaking good. I need you guys to pick this up. Another book I feel like I have talked so much about is The 7-Year Slip, again by Ashley Poston. Our female main character inherits an apartment from her aunt, and it is actually a magical apartment that pretty much like sends the person living in it at the current time back in time, and paths cross with other people who have been in that apartment. And it is just so good. Again, magical realism. I feel like I have talked about this book so much, and if you haven't picked it up already, I literally need you to pick it up, because I'm going to keep talking about it until everybody and their mothers has read this book. Another book by Ashley Poston is The Dead Romantics. I feel like this book, again, is like a book that I have never read before. And I feel like some people, when they think of Ashley Poston, they very much think about The 7-Year Slip. And I feel like The Dead Romantics kind of falls behind a little bit. It is definitely very different. Our female main character is able to see ghosts. Her family actually owns a funeral parlor, and she is able to talk to and kind of like communicate with these people who are stuck in the in-between world. I think that is just so cool. I love like ghosts and paranormal stuff, so I just love the paranormal aspect that was in this story, along with the romance that we have. And again, if you haven't read this yet, please pick it up. I feel like this would be like a kind of fun fall time read, so definitely maybe save this for that time. But I just love Ashley Poston, and if you haven't read literally any of her books yet, please go and pick them up. The next two books are both by Abby Jimenez, and the first book I have is Part of Your World. Both of our main characters have lived completely different lives. They're pretty much kind of like opposites attract, but I loved this story. I loved their romance. I feel like these two main characters are very mature, which I feel like is kind of something you might not see in a lot of romances. I feel like sometimes romances can be written where the characters are a little bit childish, or their decisions that they make are just not very good, if that makes sense. But I do really feel like these characters had a lot of emotional depth and kind of more emotional intelligence. I feel like they were also really good at communicating when things were going on, or if there was ever a disagreement, which I think is also something that made me love it even more, because I feel like these two main characters and their relationship was just overall very healthy, and honestly it was really nice to see in a book. And I just really loved the pace of it. I loved the story. And again, if you haven't read any Abby Jimenez, please pick it up. And going off of that, we have Yours Truly, again, obviously by Abby Jimenez. Our two main characters definitely got off on the wrong foot, but they ended up becoming friends through these letters that they were writing back and forth. Obviously, this progresses into a romance, and I just absolutely love this. I also really appreciated the anxiety representation that was in this book, and I just honestly felt like this romance was so real and genuine, which made me love it even more, because I could actually feel like these people were real and like they really did love each other, which obviously I want to believe in the relationship that I'm reading about, which I 100% did. So again, I'm never going to stop recommending Abby Jimenez books, so if you have not picked up anything by her, by the end of this video, I really hope you at least have one of these books on your TBR. Next up, we have Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. I'm sure so many of you guys have already read this or at least heard about it, but this is a fantasy book, and I also think that this is a really good introduction fantasy book. We have dragons, there is some world building, but nothing super crazy. There's also trials. I really love all of the friendships that we get to see our female main character build. I also absolutely freaking loved the romance. I love both of our main characters so much, specifically Violet. I loved her. I feel like this is a really fun and fast-paced book, and every time I put the book down, I kept getting excited for the next time I could pick it up. There was times where I definitely stayed up way too late trying to read this, and I think that if a book makes me want to stay up and lose sleep over, that means it is probably going to be a 5 stars for me, because I'm not going to stay up and waste my hours of sleeping to read unless it is a very, very good book, and this one definitely made me do that. So I think if you guys are looking for a fast-paced, twisty, turny fantasy with some romance in it, I definitely think you guys need to pick this up if you haven't already. The last two books I have are by Emily Henry, and the first one is Happy Place. This is definitely very emotional. The couple we are following goes on a vacation with their friend group, and at the time they are actually not together, but they are trying to convince everybody that nothing is wrong and they're not having any problems in their relationship. I just loved the friend group in this story. I loved being able to see how this couple was able to overcome all of the obstacles and get back to a place where they were actually happy and find that spark again. It just felt so good, and I had such a good time. This is definitely like set in a small town on vacation, so I think this is also a perfect book for this time of year. And the last book we have, again by Emily Henry, is Beach Read. Both of our main characters are actually authors of different genres, and they're both experiencing writer's block, and they decide to try to help overcome the writer's block. They switch genres, so both of them are writing in a genre that they have never written about before, and I feel like that was so cute. I love being able to read about authors. Obviously, being a book lover myself, I think this is another book that a lot of book lovers will absolutely adore. And again, I think this book is a perfect book to read at this time of year. It was so freaking cute, and I also loved the setting. It was rivals to lovers, which I absolutely loved, and it was funny but also emotional, and I just loved both of our main characters so much. I just loved being able to see them become friends and actually understand each other throughout the story, and obviously it leads to a romance. But guys, this was so freaking cute. Those were some of my 5-star reads, my all-time favorite books that I think you guys should read if you haven't already. Definitely let me know in the comments if you have added any of these books I talked about in today's video to your TBR, and let me know what your thoughts and opinions are if you have read any of these and maybe have a little bit of a different take on any of these books, because to me all of these books are special in different ways and I got different feelings from them, but all of those feelings that I got definitely led me to giving them 5 stars. But I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to stay tuned for more videos from me, and happy reading!